The mic is hot. Let's break this down. Dec 9, 2025. Mark the date, write it down, take a screenshot. I don't care. Just remember where you were when the friendship officially died. Because if you've been watching the news, you're seeing the polite version. You're seeing headlines about trade disputes and market adjustments. They're showing you clips of diplomats shaking hands and talking about shared democratic values. It's cute. It's comforting. It's a complete fabrication of what is actually happening on the ground right now. While the cameras were rolling on the pleasantries, Donald Trump walked into a press gaggle, no teleprompter, no filter, just pure, unadulterated leverage. And he didn't just threaten a tariff. He basically put a gun to the head of the Indian agricultural economy and cocked the hammer. He looked at the reporters and asked one simple question. Why is India allowed to dump rice in the U.S.? That's it. That's the sentence. 11 words. And the moment those 11 words hit the wires, chaos, absolute, unmitigated panic. You think I'm being dramatic? Go look at the tickers. I'm not talking about a 0.5% dip. I'm talking about a bloodbath. KRBL, down. LT Foods, tanked. Kohinoor Foods, they hit the lower circuit. That means the selling was so violent that exchange computers literally had to pull the plug to stop the bleeding. 10% of value wiped out in a single trading session. Poof, gone. Why? Because the market knows something the pundits are afraid to tell you. The market knows that Howdy Modi is over. The hugging, the stadium tours, the holding hands, that was yesterday. Today is strictly business. And business just got very, very personal. See, they told you this was a strategic partnership. They sold you the idea that India was the new China, the safe bet, the ally, the counterbalance. And for a while, it worked. American companies poured billions into Bangalore and Hyderabad. But here's the thing about alliances built on money. They only last as long as the check clears. And Trump just looked at the check, and he's saying it's about to bounce. But here is why you need to care. I know, you're sitting in Ohio or Texas or Florida, and you're thinking, okay, so some stocks in Mumbai crashed. Why is this my problem? Because this isn't about rice. It's never about the rice. The rice is just the hostage. This is about the fact that tomorrow, literally December 10th, a U.S. trade delegation is landing in New Delhi. And usually you send the delegation, then you make the threats. You negotiate behind closed doors. You play nice. Trump flipped the board. He punched them in the face before the bell even rang. He's creating a crisis 24 hours before the meeting to force a surrender. It's a classic leverage play. But here's the danger nobody's talking about. Modi isn't a pushover. You push a leader like that into a corner, publicly humiliate him by tanking his farmer stocks, his core voters, by the way, and you don't get a deal. You get a war. And if a trade war starts with the world's 5th largest economy, while we are still tangled up with China, that cheap basmati rice at your grocery store isn't the only thing that's going to double in price. We are talking about supply chains, tech support, pharmaceuticals, the invisible backbone of the American economy that runs through India. So turn off the cable news. Ignore the diplomatic sources saying everything is fine. Everything is not fine. The markets are screaming, the farmers are panicking, and the two biggest personalities in global politics are about to collide in a way that's going to leave a mark on your wallet. You want to know what's actually happening behind the curtain? You want to know what this dumping accusation is really about? Grab a coffee. Sit down. I'm about to show you the map they don't want you to see. Okay, let's rewind. You need to understand the before picture to understand why this specific moment is so dangerous. For the last few years, the narrative has been crystal clear. India is the good guy. In the grand chessboard of global chaos, while we were locking horns with China and sanctioned Russia into oblivion, India was the designated best friend. Remember Howdy Modi? Remember the stadium in Houston? 50,000 people cheering, Trump and Modi holding hands, walking a victory lap like they just won the Super Bowl? It wasn't just a photo op. It was a signal. The message to the world was, we are a team. We shared intel, we signed defense deals, we moved our iPhone factories from Shenzhen to Tamil Nadu. The logic was simple. We need India to counter China, so we are going to look the other way on the small stuff. We got comfortable. We got complacent. We thought that friendship meant immunity. And that is exactly why yesterday was a violent wake-up call. Because yesterday, the America First reality truck slammed right into the strategic partnership sedan. Here's the catalyst. It wasn't a formal policy paper. It wasn't a UN speech. It was a press gaggle. That's the scary part. President Trump standing there, likely announcing a $12 billion aid package for American farmers, which tells you right there that the American agricultural sector is hurting, decided to point the finger.
He didn't blame the weather. He didn't blame inflation. He blamed India. He used the D word, dumping. Now, I know what you're thinking. Come on, it's just bluster. It's the art of the deal. He's just rattling the cage before the trade talks start tomorrow to get a better rate on Harley-Davidsons. Stop. That is the naive take. That is the take that loses you money. When the President of the United States publicly accuses a trade partner of dumping, that is not a casual insult. In the world of the WTO and international trade law, dumping is a legal trigger. It is an accusation of a crime. It means India is selling goods, in this case rice, at a price lower than it costs to produce them or lower than they sell them for at home, specifically to destroy American competition. It transforms India from a strategic partner into a predatory economic threat in one sentence. And here's the straw man argument I keep hearing from the experts on TV. But wait, India mostly exports basmati rice to the US. We don't grow basmati in Arkansas. It's a different product. They're not competing. You think Trump cares about the botanical difference between basmati and long-grain rough rice? You think the voter in Louisiana cares? No, they see foreign rice is cheaper and American rice is sitting in silos unsold. That's the political reality. Facts do not matter here. Leverage matters. Look at the data punches. They are landing hard.
Why did shares of KRBL and LT Foods, the giants, the guys who make Indiagate and Daiwat, crash 10%? Why did they hit the lower circuit? These aren't penny stocks. These are massive conglomerates. They crashed because the market knows that if the U.S. slaps a 20, 50, or 100% tariff on Indian rice, the margins don't just shrink, they vanish. And it's not just about the rice. That's the trap. If Trump can label India a dumper on rice, he can do it on steel. He can do it on pharmaceuticals. He can do it on textiles. He has just unlocked the door to a full-scale trade war. He is signaling to Modi, I don't care about our friendship. I care about my farmers in the South. And unless you give me something massive in these talks tomorrow, maybe lower tariffs on our goods, maybe a change in your oil policy, I am going to tax you into the Stone Age. So here's the false hope everyone is clinging to right now. People are saying, well, Modi is tough. He'll just retaliate. He'll slap tariffs on U.S. apples or almonds, and they'll call it a draw. It sounds easy, right? A little tit for tat? Wrong. This isn't 2019. The global economy is fragile. India's export engine is already sputtering because of global slowdowns. They need the U.S. market. They need the dollar. Trump knows this. He smells blood in the water. He knows Modi can't afford a trade war right now. So Modi is stuck. If he fights back, he risks losing his biggest customer. If he folds, he looks weak to his own people. And remember, Modi's whole brand is strength. He cannot be seen bowing to Washington. It's the ultimate catch-22, and the clock is ticking down to the meeting tomorrow.
But wait, because it gets worse. We haven't even talked about the mechanism of how this actually destroys the supply chain. We haven't talked about what happens when you try to untangle two economies that have spent the last 5 years getting married. You think rice is the only thing on the menu? Let me explain how this system actually breaks. All right, pull up a chair. We need to get technical for a second, but I promise I'm going to make this stick. To understand why dumping is such a loaded word, you have to stop thinking like an economist and start thinking like a jealous neighbor in an HOA. Imagine you and your neighbor both sell lemonade. Your neighbor, let's call him Narendra, has a special recipe, basmati, that people love because it smells amazing. You sell regular lemonade, long grain, which is fine. It gets the job done, but it's not special. Now, Narendra sells his fancy lemonade for $2. You sell your regular stuff for $3 because your lemons cost more. People are buying Narendra's lemonade. In a normal world, you'd say that's capitalism. But in the world of trade wars, you, the neighbor, go to the HOA president, Trump, and you say, Narendra is cheating. He's selling that lemonade for less than it cost him to make it just to drive me out of business. That is dumping. It's not just competition, it's an accusation of sabotage. And here is the kicker. It doesn't matter if it's true. It doesn't matter that U.S. farmers mostly grow rough, long grain, and India exports aromatic basmati. They are two different products. It's like comparing champagne to sparkling water. But Trump doesn't care about the nuance. He cares about the leverage. By screaming dumping, he creates a legal justification to slap a 50% tax on Narendra's lemonade stand until Narendra buys your old lawnmower.
Now look at the trap. This is where it gets ugly for Modi. Modi is currently staring at a catch-22 that would make a chess master sweat. On one side, he has the Indian farmers. You've seen the videos. You've seen the tractors blocking the highways in Delhi. These guys are organized, they are angry, and they are a massive voting bloc. If Modi lets Trump bully them, if he agrees to limit rice exports or lower tariffs on U.S. goods without a fight, he looks weak. He risks a domestic uprising. But on the other side, he has the Indian economy. India's growth is fueled by exports. They need American dollars. They need American tech. They need the U.S. to keep moving supply chains out of China and into India. If Modi fights back too hard, Trump can tweet one sentence and send those factories to Vietnam instead. He is stuck. If he turns left, he faces a riot. If he turns right, he faces a recession. Wait, pause. Let's take a breath. I know, it sounds crazy. You're thinking, it's just rice. They'll figure it out. I wish you were right. I really do. But let me map out the domino effect for you, because this is the part that is going to hit your kitchen table. If the U.S. slaps a tariff on Indian rice tomorrow, India will retaliate. They have to. It's geopolitics 101, and we know exactly where they will hit because they did it in 2019. They go for the pain points.
Domino 1. California almonds. India is the biggest buyer of U.S. almonds. If India slaps a 20% tariff on them, California farmers lose billions. Domino 2, Washington apples. Last time India put a 70% duty on our apples, the industry nearly collapsed. Domino 3, the scary one, pharmaceuticals. This is the one nobody talks about. India produces 40% of the generic drugs used in the U.S. The antibiotics you give your kid for an ear infection, the blood pressure meds your dad takes, chances are they were made in a factory in Gujarat. If this trade war escalates and India decides to slow down those shipments or raise prices, we're not talking about expensive rice anymore. We are talking about a medication shortage in American pharmacies. That is the mechanism. It starts with a press gaggle about rice, and it ends with you paying $50 for a bottle of amoxicillin. And we are currently standing at the point of no return. The U.S. delegation lands in New Delhi in less than 24 hours. They aren't going there to chat. They are going there with a list of demands, and Trump just handed them a sledgehammer. If Modi blinks, his market crashes. If he fights, your costs go up. And that brings us to the future. Because regardless of what happens in that meeting, the world just changed. Let's talk about what happens next. The mic is hot. Let's bring it home. So where do we go from here? We've looked at the crash, we've looked at the trap, and we've looked at the mechanism. Now we have to look at the timeline. Because right now, there are two movies playing in the heads of the people running the world, and you need to know which one we're actually living in.
Scenario 1 is the Hollywood ending. This is the best case scenario. The U.S. delegation lands in New Delhi tomorrow. They sit down, there's a lot of yelling, a lot of closed-door threads. Modi agrees to lower tariffs on American almonds and maybe buys a few $1 billion worth of Boeing jets to smooth things over. Trump declares victory, tweets that he saved the American farmer, and the rice tariffs quietly disappear. The stocks, KRBL, LT Foods, they bounce back. The panic subsidies, we all go back to normal. I want to believe in that movie. I really do. But
I've been in this game too long to bank on it. Because we are likely living in scenario 2, the ugly truth. The ugly truth is that tariffs are addictive. Once a government starts using them, they don't like to stop. They generate revenue. They look tough on TV. And Trump has made it clear he views tariffs not as a temporary tool, but as a permanent weapon. If this scenario plays out, the rice tariff sticks. Maybe it's 20%, maybe it's 50%. Indian exporters lose the U.S. market overnight. They try to dump that rice elsewhere, maybe Africa, maybe the Middle East, crashing prices globally. The Indian rural economy, which supports 60% of their population, takes a massive hit. Farmers riot. Modi is forced to retaliate to save face. He hits U.S. tech companies. He hits U.S. pharma. Suddenly, the strategic partnership is dead. The U.S.-India alliance, which was supposed to be the bulwark against China, dissolves into a petty trade war. And guess who celebrates? Beijing. Xi Jinping is sitting there watching this happen and laughing, because if America fights India, China wins. It's that simple. Now, let's flash forward, close your eyes, and picture 2030. If we stay on this track, the world looks very different 5 years from now.
We are looking at the death of global trade as we knew it. For 30 years, the rule was make it where it's cheapest, sell it where it's richest. That is over. In 2030, we are living in a world of fragmented fortress economies. You walk into a grocery store in Ohio. The shelves aren't empty, but the variety is gone. The global aisle is half the size. The price of anything imported, coffee, spices, chocolate, rice, has doubled, not because of inflation, but because of protectionism. In India, the tech sector has pivoted away from the US. They are building their own ecosystem, or they are partnering with Europe and the global South. The days of the US and India moving in lockstep are gone. The world has split into blocks. You have the dollar block and you have the BRICS block, and they don't trade with each other unless they absolutely have to. It's a harder world. It's a more expensive world. It's a world where your passport determines your price tag. So, what do you do right now? I'm dropping the analyst hat. I'm talking to you like we're sitting at a diner. First, stop panic selling. If you have investments, don't look at the red arrows today and freak out. This is a volatility spike. It's political theater. Unless you are holding specific Indian agricultural stocks, the broader market is reacting to fear, not fundamentals. Yet. Second, look at your own exposure. If you run a small business that relies on imported goods, fabric, spices, generic parts from India, you need to start looking for a backup supplier yesterday. Do not wait for the tariff to be signed. Once it's signed, everyone will be scrambling. Beat the rush. Third, and this is for the shoppers, if your family runs on basmati rice, go buy a few extra bags. Seriously, it sounds small, but if a 50% tariff hits next week, you're going to be annoyed you didn't. It's a low-risk hedge against stupidity.
But the most important thing is the mental game. Do not let them gaslight you. When the press secretary comes out tomorrow and says discussions were productive, but the tariffs are still there, know that they are lying. When the news anchor says this is good for American jobs, but your grocery bill goes up, know that they are spinning it. You are smart enough to see the pattern. You are smart enough to know that when giants fight, it's the villagers who get stepped on. This wasn't just a press gaggle. This wasn't just about rice. This was the first shot in a new economic war that is going to define the next decade. And you're ahead of the curve. You saw it coming while everyone else was scrolling past. Stay sharp. Watch the meeting tomorrow and keep your eyes on the ticker. I'll see you on the other side.